Hello, this is part 3 of Module 1 of the Summerhill Online Academy IELTS Writing Academic Preparation course. And in this third part, we're going to take a look at some more examples of IELTS Writing Task 1. And especially we're going to focus on the pie charts specifically. And we're just going to put it all together, combining the methodology that we looked at in part 1 of this module and see how it applies to solving some more tricky kinds of questions. So first of all, let's talk a little bit more about pie graphs. So pie graphs are actually very similar to bar charts. Even though bar charts are square, pie charts are round, they really do very similar things. They really do have essentially the same function in the sense that they show proportion more than anything else. So again, with this kind of question, we could be looking at these pie graphs and trying to analyze these pie graphs from the get-go, but we're not going to do that. We're going to stick to our classic 4-step approach. We're going to start out with a paraphrase. So we're just going to go ahead and focus on this one sentence, and we're going to just paraphrase this one sentence in the introduction of writing task 1. And for now, we're just going to ignore this, the charts and the graphs, so to not let us be confused. So here it says the charts below show the proportion of British students at one university in England who are able to speak other languages in addition to English in 2010. Okay? And once again, being able to paraphrase this sentence will give us a clear understanding of what the task actually demands us to do. It gives us a clear understanding of what the numbers, what the pictures, what the graphs represent, and we can do this immediately. So we can start with a paraphrase here. The pie graphs below represent the percentage of British students studying in an English university who spoke another language other than English. Right? So we started with a paraphrase. It's already done. Step number 2, if you remember, we are going to at least mentally divide the information. Right? So again, when we're looking at this chart, we can see there's 2 graphs, one in the year 2000 and one in the year 2010. Right? At this point, it makes no sense to organize this information in any other way. Right? We can see there are 6 categories for each in year 2000, 2010. We wouldn't want to write 6 paragraphs, although that's another way to compare year 2000 and year 2010 in 6 short little sentences or paragraphs. But it would make much more sense to just compare all of the statistics in year 2000 and year 2010. Okay, so first of all, we're going to divide the information. Now that we know what we're going to do first, so we're going to start with 2000 and then we're going to go with 2010, we can focus on the year 2000 and look at other statistics. Now, surprisingly, you might be surprised with this, we can actually combine all of these 6 statistics, all of these 6 numbers in just one sentence using respectively. And respectively is a great way of combining information together. Let's take a look at this sentence. In 2000, the majority of British students studying in this university spoke no other language or Spanish only, with 30% and 20% respectively, while an equal proportion spoke only French or another language with 15% each. Also, an equal proportion of students spoke 2 other languages or German only, with 10% each. Okay, a few things to notice here. We're using here respectively to combine information together. Now, respectively actually shows the relative space or the relative sequence of events or items that are listed. So in this sentence, the USA, Canada, and Europe have a relatively high level of IELTS takers per month with 40,000, 30,000, and 250,000 respectively. Now, that respectively there signals that the order of 40,000, 30,000, 250,000 corresponds to the order in which we've listed those three countries, the United States, Canada, and Europe, right? And for all of you guys who are interested in punctuation, yes, we put a comma before that respectively at the end. Okay, so here we can see that when we're listing university students who spoke no other language or Spanish, we know that 30% corresponds to other languages and 20% corresponds to Spanish because we have that respectively. Again, we're using a subordination. In this instance, we're using while, which is a subordination that shows that these statistics these pieces of information, these trends we're placing together happen at the same time, right? And again, we're paraphrasing a lot here. We're using 15% each if we're talking about two countries the same proportion or the same two categories that have the same percentage, right? And again, we had also an equal proportion students spoke two other languages or German only with 10%. Again, only with 10% each refers to the fact that we're talking about two categories that have the same statistic, the same percentage, the same number. Okay? So we're finished with year 2000. We can go back to 2010. And once again, it's quite possible for us to use our friends, the subordinations, and respectively to combine information together. We can see right away that there are three categories that have 10% each, and then we have 35, 20, and 15%. We can just put that all in one sentence. Let's try that. By 2010, while the largest proportion of British students in this university spoke no other language, another language, or two other languages with 35, 20%, and 50% respectively. Again, we are using the same order here, and respectively shows that those three percentages correspond to those three categories we talked about. Students who spoke Spanish only, German only, or French only took up an equal proportion of 10% each. Again, we can use 10% each if we're referring to statistics that are of an equal proportion number. Okay? And we were able to combine all of that information from the pie chart in just one sentence because we used respectively with a combination of a subordination, in this case, while. Okay? So now that we've described the information in these charts, we are ready for our final step, which is to write an overview. Again, it's important to look at the relationship between the highs and the lows. It's not necessary for the overview to describe every statistics or repeat numbers or statistics in general. We're looking for the big trends. And remember, when we're describing Writing Task 1 Academic, we are not going to include any opinions or conjecture or our own point of views or even our experience. We're simply going to describe major trends, changes, and differences. So looking at these two statistics, we're looking at the highs and the lows. We're looking at the biggest and smallest percentages, biggest changes if we can. Overall, although a significant proportion of British students in this university spoke more than just one language, the majority of students in both periods studied spoke only English. Right? And once again, we were able to complete this task in 150 words, mostly by combining sentences together with subordinations like although, while, and using the phrase respectively. Let's take a look. So that overview, remember, has no opinions. We don't put any opinions, right? And we can use this 4-step approach for all Writing Task 1. In Module 2, we will still use the same approach when describing maps and processes. So let's take a look one more time at another graph. Here we have 6 pie charts once again. And again, we could be tempted to spend time looking at these pie charts, starting to look at the statistics, compare differences. But instead of that, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go ahead and start with our paraphrase. So we're going to move straight into that one sentence. We're going to ignore everything. It says here that the charts below show the percentage of water used for different purposes in 6 areas of the world. We're just going to paraphrase that one sentence here. Let's take a look at an example. The pie graph describes the percentage of water usage in different categories among 6 regions in the world. Right? Again, this gives us a perspective of what we need to do. Right? Our paraphrase is finished. Time to divide information. And again, it's quite challenging here because we see 6 separate pie charts. Right? And so we might be tempted at a moment of stress when we have a time limit here to perhaps describe each pie chart individually. But instead, we can see that actually there are only 3 categories within all of these 6 countries that these pie charts are describing: industrial use, agricultural use, and domestic use. So in this instance, those 3 categories make a lot more sense for us to organize or divide our information based on these 3 categories. Okay, so now that we've decided to base our organization, to divide our writing task 2 based on these 3 categories, it's time to describe our data. So first of all, we can start with industrial use. Again, we can see that industrial use of water is much higher in North America and Europe than in the other countries. And again, we can use that phrase respectively to combine everything together. And here we managed to do that in just one sentence. Clearly, while North America and Europe use about half of their water supply on industrial usage, Southeast Asia, South America, Africa, and Central Asia use a far lower percentage of their water supply for this purpose, with only 12%, 10%, 7%, and 5% respectively. We've managed to combine all of that information in one sentence. In fact, respectively helped us to combine 4 different statistics together, while we could just say more than half, or about half, to describe North America and Europe. And again, we used our lovely subordination while to combine both of those phrases, both of those 2 trends together. Let's move on and talk about agricultural use. We can see that it's a significant it requires a significant use of water in most of those countries, but predominantly in South America, Africa, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia, while Europe and North America do not use as much water as those other countries. Although Central Asia, Africa, Southeast Asia, and South America utilize the majority of their water for agricultural purposes with 80%, 88%, 84%, 81%, and 71% respectively, North America and Europe use a significantly lower percentage of water for this purpose with 39% and 32% respectively. Here we're using although, and we're using respectively twice. Why not? To combine all these statistics together. Here we've managed to combine specifically, not even without we didn't have to paraphrase. We could specifically describe what the statistics were using respectively, combining both of those phrases with the subordination, although again in just one sentence. Very efficient here. Finally, going to domestic usage, we can see generally that Europe and South America use these slightly more than the other countries, but it's less use. It's a lower domestic usage of water is much lower in these countries than compared to the other statistics. Without a doubt, all of these geographic areas use a significantly lower percentage of water for domestic usage, with South America, Europe, North America, and Africa using 19%, 15%, 13%, and 9% respectively, while Central Asia and Southeast Asia use only 7% each. Right? Again, we're using 7% each because we're talking about the same statistic for 2 countries. And we were able to use just one sentence. And again, the subordination while here to combine both of these trends. So finally, it's time to look at the overview. For the overview, again, we're looking at the highs and the lows, and agricultural use pops out immediately, right? And also we can see the trends in North America and Europe. They pop out also in terms of their industrial use of water. Although domestic usage remains the lowest source of water usage among these geographic areas, the main source of water usage in North America and Europe is industrial usage, while agricultural usage is the main source of water usage among the remaining regions studied. So we're actually using although and while once again to combine three different statistics, three general sweeping trends: domestic usage, industrial usage, and agricultural usage in just one sentence, using combination of although and while in just one sentence, right? And we're done once again, and we have completed 150 words quite efficiently. So in this first module, we took a look and we saw the general methods for IELTS Writing Task 1. And we saw plenty of examples of both line charts and pie charts. Okay, and again, that one method of first ignoring the statistics and moving into a paraphrase, carefully figuring out how we're going to divide our information, and using our complex sentences using subordinations like although, despite, when, and while, and respectively too, in order to combine complex trends into single sentence paragraphs, or even just one or two sentences together in one paragraph to describe sweeping trends.